Hey guys, it's Steph here. I've been just chilling all morning in my living room. I've been making so many plans for my spring gardens. You guys, I have books upon books. I've been researching. My husband and I are starting a landscape business this year. I'm so excited. There's so much to learn. Anyways, it's got me thinking about so many different things. But then I started dreaming of all the spring blooms that I am looking forward to in spring. And then I thought, why don't I share some of my favorite earliest spring blooming trees? I have a few in my yard. They're still getting established, not quite to full size yet. But the reason why I love these ones, these are the ones I'm going to recommend because the blooms come out earlier than any of the other ones. They are absolutely gorgeous, breathtaking. I always get compliments on these trees. And then they're for smaller spaces, so they're great. They can be pruned heavily. You can kind of create multi-stemmed trees, raise the canopy. I am really into multi-stem trees this year, so I'm definitely gonna plant a few more of those in my yard. And then, yeah, you can put them in container pots. They're just really versatile. They do get a little bit smaller, but they also get kind of big if you let them, so around 15 to 20 feet tall and wide. Let's talk about the first one. So the Magnolia Jane. So there are so many different types of magnolias out there. It's crazy. You can get really massive ones. So the ones I'm going to be talking about, they're more of like a bush form, but they do get 15 to 20 feet tall and wide. But my Magnolia Jane, unfortunately, is in a spot that I think I'm going to move it. I'm trying to convince my husband. It's fairly young, and I think if I'm really careful and I dig really deep and cut off those roots just a little bit, I am going to delay its growth for a few years, but I'm gonna put it in a spot in my back porch. We just built a pergola and I'm just gonna enjoy it so much more right there. It's in a spot that I don't even see it in springtime. It's on the east side of my house. Major mistake because it's one of my favorite trees. And I'm gonna try and let it get about 15 feet tall, not that wide, but they get these beautiful big pink flowers. But these are really big spring blooms. They're the earliest ones to come out in my yard, and they're cold hardy to down zone 4 through 8. When it's done blooming, those leaves are really thick. They kind of remind me more of a tropical type tree in my climate. Since I'm in a zone 6B, it's a little bit more deserty here. And so the only problem I had this year with my magnolia is it blooms really abundantly. I've had blooms every single year without fail. I really haven't had to do anything to it. I have added compost around it. I would definitely recommend it, putting it in a part shade climate if it gets really hot. So it's 100 degrees here all summer long. We are getting the winter of a lifetime. I cannot tell you how happy I am about it. I just am talking about it every single day. I'm checking the snowpack levels every day. It's just been such a blessing. But we did get a late frost last year around June, which is not typical, and those buds were kind of already starting to come out before then. So they froze, they got frostburn, and I don't know, there's not much you can do about that. I wish I would have anticipated it. I would have wrapped this magnolia in some frost cloth and protected them. But out of the 5 years that I've had it, that's never happened until this last year. Their blooms come out in succession at different times, so you get them for a good month, month and a half. Anyways, great one to plant. Definitely recommend putting that one in your own yard. All right, guys, I had to relocate. My kids could not be quieter longer than like 30 seconds, so I've just decided to come outside. The lighting is so much better out here anyway, and I'm feeling just an abundance of peace being outside, enjoying nature. So I should have started the video this way, so I apologize. Anyways, let's move on to the next one that I look forward to in spring. It's the snowball bush. You might be familiar with this one. So when I was reading about these, I didn't realize there were so many different varieties of snowball bush that can kind of look all the same, but there are some variations. So the ones I'm going to talk about today are the Chinese snowball bush and the European snowball bush. The Japanese ones I'm not so interested in because I hear they can be kind of unruly, a little bit more on the woody side. Might not be correct with that one. And then I don't even remember the other variety because I really didn't care about it. So the one I have in my yard is the European snowball bush. This one actually prefers more alkaline soil. It will be okay with acidity, which is good for me because that's kind of where I lean on the pH scale. We don't have a lot of acid. Holy crap, guys, I'm getting frustrated. I live on a really busy driveway and the cars are just coming nonstop. I don't know where else to sit. This is my perfect spot right now, so I hope it's not too distracting. Please ignore it if you can. Okay, so let's talk about the Chinese snowball bush for a little bit. Like I said, I don't have this one in my yard, but it's not as cold hardy as your European one. It's only cold hardy down to zone 6 through 9. The leaves on this one aren't as interesting as the European one. They look more like your typical hydrangea leaf. The blooms on this one, this is the reason why I want to plant it, are the biggest of all the snowball bushes. They say they can get up to 8 inches wide. That is crazy. So I think I'm gonna find a spot for it. So it likes the full sun, same as the European. I didn't mention that, but this one gets a little bit bigger, especially if you live in the south. It's gonna get up to 20 to 25 feet tall and wide. So this is the one that I would definitely recommend kind of pruning into a tree form. If you want it to get a little bit bigger, create that multi-stem shape, and you can plant some stuff underneath it if you want, or you can just leave it as a focal point. But both of these would be great. The European and the Chinese snowball bush would be great for creating some privacy along a fence or some areas where you want to cover something. A great hedging type plant. So that's, I think, all I have to say about the Chinese. So pretty. They're both a little bit different, but from a distance you might think that they're the same variety. I better hurry, I'm starting to lose daylight here. So I did forget to mention a few things. The European has a tendency to attract aphids, which it doesn't damage the plant, but it can be a little bit more unsightly. I haven't really noticed that yet where I live, and I'm not too worried about it. And then the Chinese is actually a little bit more tolerant of acidic soil. So if you live somewhere with a high acidity, definitely plant the Chinese variety. Last but not least, let's talk about the tricolor beech. I was just noticing, look how beautiful it is in the window. It's its own little painting. I didn't notice that until I looked back on this video for a minute. But this tricolor beech, it doesn't get blooms, but the foliage on it is so gorgeous. So it comes out in the early spring. This one is so slow growing. It can actually get up to 30 to 50 feet tall and wide, but it only grows about, well, I've noticed in my own yard, it is in a shadier area, so it doesn't grow quite as fast, but it's only been about a ½ an inch a year. And I tell myself and my husband every year, is this thing actually growing? My deer actually got to the top of it too. It didn't really do much damage, but it chomped the top leader. It's like, really? The deer must be pretty desperate. But at first those leaves will kind of come out like an orange brown. So that always makes me a little bit worried because I don't think it's going to get that pretty bright magenta pink color, but then it does. If it's in the full sun, it's going to get this bright pink color. Where I live in hotter climates, definitely put it in a part shade area. I have it in morning sun where really it only gets about 3 hours of that morning sun. So it really likes a lot of shade, but it doesn't get as bright of color that way. But then I notice all summer long, it turns to a soft pink, and then it's just absolutely stunning the entire year. If it's in a full sun area where it's really hot, those leaves will turn brown and they kind of will get a little bit crunchy on the edges, which is okay. It's not really doing anything harmful to the tree. It just becomes a little bit more unsightly that way. But this one prunes really well, so you can keep it small. I've seen a lot of them in container pots. They're cold hardy down to zone 4 through 7. I don't really think there's anything else I want to say with this tricolor beech, is that it's just really grown for that spring color and that foliage. But it is a good complement to some golden evergreens, conifers. That's a really nice contrast. I actually have it planted with some hinoki Japanese grass, this bright yellow grass that likes the shade. It's just going to be massed under it. I'm really excited to see when all of that starts to fill in. I just barely planted it this year, but I love this tricolor beech. I'm always looking for another spot for one of them. They just have a really nice ornamental shape. So if you live in an area where you don't have a lot of space, put this one on your checklist. They are a little bit more pricey around here. When I go to the nurseries, I end up having to spend around $150 to get one, but it's definitely worth it. They do make you be a little bit patient because they grow so slowly. But with all of these 3 trees, they're not really messy. There's not a lot of cleanup. The worst thing about them is they drop their beautiful petals all over the ground. And those are quite gorgeous themselves. So I hope you guys liked these highlights and it gave you some inspiration for your own yards. Maybe you're gonna buy them, maybe you're not. Anyway, I will talk to you later. Thanks for stopping by. Please hit the notification bell for my future videos, the subscribe button, and the like button if you found this video helpful or useful or inspiring. Anyways, I will talk to you later. Bye.